Albania has received the first group of undocumented migrants arriving from Italy under a controversial new deal. Now, the arrangement could see tens of thousands of asylum applications processed in Albania. The 16 men from Bangladesh and Egypt were the first to arrive at the processing location under a 5-year deal that Italy's right-wing government signed last year. The accord could provide a model for more European countries. Rights group Amnesty International has described the arrangement as a cruel experiment. DW's Jack Parra takes a closer look now at the scheme and the controversy surrounding it.
The people who will be brought to the centres are the ones the Italian Coast Guard has rescued from smugglers' boats in the Mediterranean Sea. Last year, nearly 140,000 people arrived in Italy this way. And this is what the inside of the centre looks like, where men will be housed 4 in a cell for a 28-day period. 3,000 can be held here at one time. Italian officials hope to process up to 36,000 applications per year. Those who are refused asylum by Italy will be repatriated back to their countries of origin from here within 3 months, perhaps never having set foot on EU soil.
It is a new, courageous, unprecedented path, but one that perfectly reflects the European spirit and that has all the credentials to be taken also with other non-EU nations.
The first 16 migrants to arrive here come from Bangladesh and Egypt, 2 of the 22 countries Italy designates as so-called safe countries, meaning they're likely to be sent back. When the €670 million deal between Italy and Albania was agreed in November, it drew expressions of concern in Brussels that an EU nation was outsourcing its migration problem. But just this week, EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen has raised the idea of holding centres, where failed asylum applicants from across the bloc could be sent.
This is about creating so-called return hubs in third countries with whom the European Union would have agreements. For migrants whose right to stay in the EU has been rejected, while they're waiting to be returned to the country that they came from.
The opening of the centres in Albania marks a paradigm shift in EU migration processing. People making dangerous journeys trying to reach the EU may never actually set foot inside it.
Susan Fratzke is a senior policy analyst with the Migration Policy Institute, which describes itself as a non-partisan think tank that seeks to improve immigration policies. Welcome to DW. Let's start with your thoughts on this new deal between Italy and Albania.
Well, the Italy-Albania deal is being watched quite closely across the EU and by member states as a potential example of how states could deal with mixed migration across the Mediterranean. I think what we know so far, though, is that a lot will depend on how the agreement is implemented. There are a lot of questions about the legality of the agreement, what it will mean for the rights and experiences and conditions that migrants and asylum seekers experience in practice. And there's a lot of possibilities, I think, for things to go wrong as well. So we will all be watching quite closely, I think, as this is underway to see how it actually plays out.
OK. What's in this for Albania?
Well, Albania and Italy have a historic relationship that has been quite close. They have a long history of cooperating also on migration with Albanian refugees, of course, historically coming to Italy as well. And Italy has promised Albania that they will support the Albanian efforts to become an EU member state. So there's also quite a bit of diplomatic capital that Italy has put behind this as well to try to encourage Albania to cooperate and to play the role it's agreed to take on as part of this agreement.
I guess there's money and jobs as well.
I think a lot of it comes down really to the political part of this. I mean, of course, there is the role that Albanian authorities will play in supporting the centers. But really, I think the political negotiations and the ability for Italy to support Albania's accession to the EU, this has been something that has really been important for Western Balkan states, including Albania, for quite a long time.
And one of the weird things about this deal is that it'll be staffed by Italian staff, which seems odd.
This is actually one of the very important parts of the agreement to ensure that it stays within compliance with EU law. So under EU law, once migrants and asylum seekers are under the jurisdiction of a country's authorities, they then have responsibility for processing those asylum seekers' cases and ensuring that they are in compliance with the standards and human rights conditions that need to be met. So in order to stay in compliance with EU law, it's actually quite important for for Italian authorities to remain in control of asylum procedures and ensure that they can meet EU reception and asylum conditions.
You said there are plenty of ways in which this might go wrong. Enumerate a couple of the big ones for us.
Sure. So one of the things that I think will be watched quite closely is the amount of time that people will spend on boats being transferred from Italian waters and from Italian ports to Albania. It takes about 10 days to go back and forth. So if someone ends up staying on a boat for quite a long time, that could end up being a violation of human rights law and inhumane and degrading treatment because they've been kept on a boat longer than was necessary. Another tricky part of the agreement might also be if individuals aren't sufficiently checked for vulnerabilities and end up being transferred to closed centers in Albania where some of those needs can't be met. Another part that I think will be watched quite closely is what happens to people after their asylum claims are rejected. If they aren't quickly returned to their countries of origin but ended up staying in Albania for a long time, it could be putting them at risk for prolonged detention.
This idea of what to do with people once their asylum claims have been rejected has been a vexed one for lots of countries, hasn't it? Because quite often people don't actually have any paperwork with them, they're no passport. So where do you return them to? Is wherever you would like to return them to actually a fit for them to be returned there?
It's something that has attracted quite a lot of attention at the EU level for the last couple of years, and particularly has been brought to the front of the new Commission's mandate and was mentioned in the letters that Ursula von der Leyen, the president of the Commission, has now issued to the commissioners designate. One of the challenges has been that countries often cite a very low return rate to countries of origin. So few people who are ordered to return are actually then returning home. The challenges are numerous. One of the things that member states often say is that they aren't getting sufficient cooperation from countries of origin to actually accept their nationals back, and that their nationals aren't, as you said, aren't coming with the right paperwork, and countries are really delaying and not really agreeing for them to return. But there are a lot of other challenges that arise as well. For example, often there's insufficient coordination between the different agencies responsible for conducting a return. There isn't cooperation between member states on returns. So someone who has a return order might move to another member state and then can't be returned from there. There's insufficient capacity for detention facilities or alternative to detention to ensure that someone doesn't leave when they have a return order. There's a lot of different things that can really go wrong in the process that leads to lower rates of return.
But you see, those problems that you've enumerated there relating to returns, I suppose they're going to be the same whether those people are being returned from Albania or Italy or Greece. What seems to be happening here is that they're effectively just being warehoused elsewhere until the pressure becomes the same in Albania as it is in any of the other frontline states. Because at the end of the day, it's about how to efficiently expedite the processing of the claims and the return of the people. And if that's not being done within the bloc, it's hard to see how it's going to be done better outside it.
This is one of the main concerns about the Italy-Albania arrangement and these other ideas for things like return hubs that have been arising at the EU level. that even though you are moving the process somewhere else, you will still be having many of these same obstacles and challenges that could arise with returning someone, particularly this question of cooperation with the country of origin. And that's why one of the main concerns with Italy-Albania is that it could create a risk of someone having to stay in prolonged detention in Albania because it's too difficult to return them to their country of origin. So as you said, you're just transferring the problems from one place to another. And I think it's one of the main things that we'll need to watch as the agreement unfolds.
Which, of course, begs the question then, if these are solutions really to practical problems or solutions to the political problem of how to head off the various far-right parties which are gaining in popularity because of the migration issue.
Yes, I think it's important to recognize that the Italy-Albania arrangement really has, I think, a couple of different possible goals in mind. One, of course, is this question of how you improve return and improve the rates of return. And it may or may not, but likely may not improve that particular dimension, but it has a couple of other goals as well. One is to improve the reception capacity of facilities within Italy, like Lampedusa, which is where a lot of people are being disembarked right now, and to provide an additional place where people could be disembarked. But it also has a clear political objective as well, to signal that something is on the part of the Italian government, that something is being done on migration, something's being done on maritime arrivals. And also, there's a hope that by sending this signal, you'll be both improving domestic political standing for the Italian government, but also potentially deterring new people from undertaking the journey across the Mediterranean. And on the second point, whether it will deter people from taking the journey, I think it's very unclear that that is likely to happen, given that we're talking about quite a small number of people initially. And also not everyone will actually be disembarked in Albania. And we don't have a lot of information really to say yet, I think, what effect, if any, it might have on that particular migration route.
OK, thanks for walking us through that. Suzanne Fratzke from the Migration Policy Institute.
Thank you.
Well, Ileana Bello is Director General of Amnesty International Italy. Welcome to DW. So let's look at this description of yours as that this deal is illegal and unworkable. Let's start with why you believe that it won't work.
Yes, thank you very much. Indeed, we are very, very concerned about this protocol between Italy and Albania. We see that there is a serious risk for human rights of migrants, refugees, and asylum seekers. There are issues related to the length of disembarkment for people that are sometimes.
Let me just interrupt you there, just because I was quite specific in my question. Why do you believe that this will not work? We'll talk about the legalities in a sec. Let's start with the function. Why do you believe that it won't work?
It won't work. I mean, because the purpose is to use it as a deterrent for migrants not to flee their countries and to go to Italy and to Europe. This is not working. This has not worked even previously with agreements that Italy had with Libya, the agreement of the EU with Tunisia, and we know that migrants, that people were keeping moving and leaving their place to seek for a better place or to flee from dangerous situation in their places. So this is already proof that this is not working. And on the other side,
you say it won't deter. Forgive me. You say it won't deter migrants. Will it speed up the process of removing them if the process? Once their applications have been processed and it is decided that they cannot stay, will that part of it work?
It won't speed up the process because it will be far away, let's say, also from since it's under the Italian legislation. I mean, those that are normally reviewing asylum application are normally based in Italy. So having up to 3,000 asylum seekers in Albania won't definitely help speed up the process.
Okay.
And actually, they can be up to 18 months detained in administrative detention.
You've talked about how you believe that it's illegal. I'll allow you to outline your issues with it there. And just, I'll also ask you, if you believe it is illegal, do you intend to take the Italian government to court over this?
Yes, I mean, this is something that we are exploring with other human rights organizations. At the moment, we would also like to see how this is going to work in practice. We have tried as much as we could. At the time, this agreement was going to be signed at the time, but it did not work. We also appealed the European Union to stop Italy ratify this protocol, and now we want to see whether also the promise and the guarantees that Italy promised to be there, let's say, in support of these asylum seekers will work or not, and then we will decide what to do and whether to pursue Italy legally.
This is supposed to be a temporary deal, initially set to last 5 years. What do you think will happen to this deal if it lasts that long?
Yes, we are concerned of the fact that this could be some kind of also blueprint for other countries in Europe. We've seen a lot of interest around this pilot experience from Italy, coming from various countries in the EU, and this can be, really dangerous because, of course, if others are going to follow the same experience, then it may last longer than the agreement itself.
Right.
And we know also that it's very, very expensive for taxpayers to pay the overall structure there, and with very, very scarce results, and actually with putting in danger people there.
So we know that this is a big issue across Europe. If not this, then what? What would be a better solution? And if you wouldn't mind being brief, thank you so much.
Yes, a better solution would be to use the same money that is being used now for policy of integration, of welcoming refugees and migrants, and supporting them in seeking, let's say, their place in Italy and in Europe, instead of detaining them and then possibly also getting them back to their places considered as safe countries, as we know. In many cases, this is what is being said.
Thank you so much for joining us, Ileana Bello, Director General of Amnesty International Italy.
Thank you very much.